Hey all, welcome back to another episode. So excited to have you here today with one of our own, Miss Mackenzie Adams. She is a part of our group, a part of our community. I coach her personally. She has been through quite a journey, both before me and since she's joined me. Everything from overweight to not eating correctly to binging to becoming an avid bicyclist to skin removal surgery and so much more. And we're going to touch on all of the pieces of her journey. So she'll definitely be, if nothing else, an inspiration to you, but I guarantee that you will have something amazing to take away from this call because every single time I talk to her, I find myself ultimately more inspired as well. So give it a listen and I hope that you enjoy it. All right, you guys, this is Miss Mackenzie. She is a rock star and a half, also a fellow Iowan. But I'm going to let her introduce herself, give a little background on who she is, where she's from, what she does, and then we can dive into her whole story.
Yes, it is so good to see you again, Nikki. I just have missed you. We used to do our little weekly check-ins and yeah, so I am from northern Iowa, like 10 miles from the border, super close to Minnesota. Um During the day, I'm a nurse. I actually get to work from home, which is really, really nice. Even pre-COVID, I was working from home. So that's been awesome. Spending time with my family, obviously, then during that. But I really think of myself as a mom, a mentor, a teacher, kind of a health advocate. And I don't know if nursing really kind of got me into that. But I've been on a health journey for a while, and hopefully I can just be there to encourage people and to just show people like the real, raw truth, because it's not always easy. It's not always, wow, look at your before and after, look at your, what you came from. I've had a hard go at it, but I'm glad that I'm here so that I can hopefully motivate and encourage some people to keep going.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. So like few things to pull out of there, you guys. Um, you say that you're here to motivate. Let me just point out that literally every time after Mackenzie and I would talk, I would feel like inspired to go do hard things myself. Like you are incredible inspiration. So I'm so excited to have you here. And also mom, full-time job, all of the things. So she's just as busy as everyone else and an avid bicyclist as well. So
Yeah.
lots of big things going on, but I guess take us back to the beginning, right? Did you grow up as an athlete? Did you grow up not having a great relationship with food? Where did things kind of go south? Tell us about
Yeah.
that.
I was kind of trying to think back on this too, but even from like when I was little, I was always more heavy set. I was always like the chubby sister. I'm thinking back middle school, high school, like my parents said, like, you need to do something. So either do band or do, something sports related, whatever. I did volleyball seventh and eighth grade. I wasn't good. I just went out to, I had to be involved. So went out for sports there, got into high school and was like, not feeling it. I was actually like a wrestling manager, so I just got to sit with all the boys and do the scorekeeping or whatever. I didn't do a whole lot, so I was like, I'll do band. That was kind of my thing. And in eighth grade, seventh or eighth grade, I had a really bad bout of chronic hives. I don't know. We still can't figure out what was going on. But hives head to toe in my mouth, like nose. I mean, like, so they were worried about my breathing, all this stuff. So I was on steroids for ever and ever. So you get put on steroids, gained 100 pounds, I think, from eighth to ninth grade. That's like a key time when you're growing, you're supposed to be getting, establishing friendships, relationships, that type of thing. And it totally ruined like my childhood. I mean, like honestly, like growing up and having all that happen was really, really rough. Um, that's the time I got glasses. That's the time I got braces, so like all these physical things were happening to me. And then mentally that really, really, I think kind of just pushed me over the edge. I had like two really close friends. I was very smart, very academically motivated. I would prefer to go home and read books or write poetry than go out and about and be active and be fun, which you couldn't have told me that, 20 years later, I'd be biking 100 miles at a time and, the huge change that I've had to go through. But I can honestly say like high school was my first big, like I was heavy. I was always that way. Um, and then going into college, I was like, I can do something about this. I started to do research. That's when, I mean, I didn't have my own computer, that type of thing. And so started to do more research, got into nursing, really loved nutrition. Like I fell in love with nutrition. Um, wanted to do something dietitian related, and then decided that that just wasn't for me and just, did the whole nursing thing. But in college, I started to lose weight. So I started to work on weight loss, going to the gym. And that's kind of where, if I look back, I started maybe an unhealthy relationship with food. Um, and the fact that I'd be like, okay, I'm going to the gym 2 or 3 times a day. So then I thought, well, then I can eat what I want. And I was, I mean, who wasn't drinking in college and, partying and whatever. I wasn't of age, but all my friends were, that I went to college with. And so I just made that work, right? Um, Graduated college 90 pounds lighter than I went into college. So I felt good, right? I was like, yes, I did this. Went off to call after college, moved to South Carolina all by myself with a friend. Um, so no family, no nothing. Family life back home in Iowa just kept happening and got really stressful. My grandpa got sick, my mom got sick. I'm like, I can't do this. I'm that person that has to be around and with somebody. And so I moved back home, got in a relationship, got comfortable, got happy. It was late nights, binge drinking all weekend, going to McDonald's at 4 or 5 in the morning, eating, till I would pass out at 6 in the morning, sleeping all day, just super, super unhealthy, right? Um, I remember being late to work as a nurse a couple times because I had to stop at Quick Start and grab food and drinks and stuff to take to work, and then eating there, plus then eating, at work, and then plus eating what I had already grabbed. Um, During that whole relationship, it was very emotionally abusive, and so that obviously just took a toll on me too. Um, the emotional part, I wasn't allowed to do anything. I had to ask permission to go to get gas in my vehicle. I had to ask permission to go outside of the house. So it was really tough, and that was a 7-year relationship. I have a child from that relationship, so I don't ever regret being in that. But it was when it started, turning physical that I was like, okay, I gotta get out. Actually got put on phentermine at the very end of that relationship. Was feeling good, was losing weight, obviously. But when I started losing weight, I think the guy that I was with started to get insecure. He didn't like that, didn't want me to be, didn't want me to be more attractive. I think just, I don't know if he was scared I was gonna, go away or go somewhere else. But anyway, I did, just because it ended really bad. Um, and then kind of fast forward again, I got comfortable. I, was single. I was by myself. I had my son and I did what I wanted. Movement, nutrition was not a priority for me. It was taking care of my little boy. I was in a really stressful job at the time. So I was a nurse at a nursing home. And then I was the director of nursing. So I ran the nursing home as a 28-year-old. It was really stressful. I was practically living there. Um, and decided that once I had my second child that I needed to do something different. Professional wise, nutrition wise for myself. Um, then I'm trying to think, COVID happened. And obviously, actually, let's go back. Prior to COVID, I went to my doctor and I said, I need to do something different. I've tried phentermine. I've tried this. I've tried this. My family, I mean, we have a history of being overweight. And I'm like, I don't want to be this way anymore. I want to be active. I love, like I said, I knew what I was doing. Like I knew about nutrition. It's not like I didn't know what macronutrients were. I didn't not know what I was doing. I don't know if I just needed that push, that boost, that, something to tell me like that it's okay. I needed a tool. And so started my whole weight loss journey the end of 2019. Went to the doctor, said I wanted something. He said, 6 months, you got to go to a nutritionist. We'll work on, losing some weight. All right. Went to a nutritionist. Here you go. You get 1,200 calories a day. You need to do active movement. I'm like, okay, did it, lost 20 pounds. Perfect. Let's schedule you for gastric sleeve surgery. I'm like, sweet, perfect. It's going to cure all. I'm so excited, pumped, ready to go. COVID happened, 4 months later. And I'm like, great. Now there's no elective surgeries. I'm not going to be able to do this. Kept on with my weight loss, kept on my little 1,200 calorie diet. Tried to walk as much as I could with 2 boys all by myself. Ended up getting surgery. They approved it, let me go through the whole thing with COVID happening in July of 2020. And I was actually just looking back on some pictures. I think 6 months later, So I had the sleeve surgery. 6 months later, I was down 80 pounds. Um, I obviously was happy. I felt like I looked good. I felt confident. I was able to move. That's kind of when I started the whole early morning exercise, which if anybody follows me like on social media, that's like what you'll see. You'll see like my really fast workout videos in the morning or my exercise things now. But back then, that's where my whole super, super unhealthy relationship with food started. Um, I told Nikki this too, but I was living off of string cheese and coffee. That was okay for me. That was my go-to. Because of the sleeve, I felt full that way. Liquids filled me up and I was good. Little to no protein, no nutritional value there, obviously. Um, 2 years later, I was down to 129 pounds. For my height, I'm supposed to be like 110 to 130, something ridiculous like that, right? Um, no, it was awful. I was drinking too, just drinking alcohol at night because I'm like, well, it doesn't matter. It takes one or two drinks to get me completely wasted, and then I could just forget everything that was going on in my life. Stresses with relationships and jobs and all the things. And my hair was falling out. I had I could wear pajama pants, my hip bones were sticking out. And looking back, like that's what I wanted. I wanted to be skinny. I wanted to be thin. I wanted people to like me, which really makes me sad because thinking back, people did start to talk to me. People from college and high school are like, "Oh, hey, how are you?" and wanted to be my friend now. And I'm not a different person. Like I'm the same person. I have the same personality. And I actually think maybe I'm even more outgoing than I was before, and more willing to share just because it was such a hard time. Yeah, I attributed my hair loss to, oh, well, I was getting my hair colored and that's why it fell out. And I'm like, there's no way. I was literally malnourished. I went out with a couple friends. We did like a sign painting class and I was in the backseat of the car. Didn't ever tell them this, but I started feeling really tingly, like on one side of my body. And I'm like, I feel like I'm having a stroke. Like my hands started to cramp up and my legs were crampy and my face was droopy and I couldn't smile. And I'm like, I'm having a stroke. Like I'm having a stroke in this back seat. Hadn't eaten or drank anything all day, was trying to I was like, does anyone have any water? I'm like, I'll be fine. Um, yeah, it was because my magnesium, my zinc, everything was just so low. I was just so malnourished. It's times like that that are really scary that I think, was this worth it? Should I have done this? Should I have done the whole surgery? And then I kind of changed my mindset into this. I want to be strong. I don't want to be skinny anymore. I want to be strong. I want to be fit strong. I want to be able to do things. I mean, there was days where I couldn't even physically hardly move. I was so exhausted just from being so malnourished. And now I've gained, 30 pounds since my lowest. I feel so much better. One of my big key things was I needed to get nutritionally sound and feel better so that I could have my skin removal surgery. When you lose a bunch of weight and that quickly, I had skin for days. It was ridiculous. I could pull it, 3 feet away from my body. And that also helped, was hindering my movement too. So that's kind of when I started watching Nikki and I was like, okay, she's doing something too. Like, what is she doing? She's, a strong working mom, like she's sporty. I'm like, that's what I want to be. I want to be like that. And so like looking back, I'm like, okay, I followed her for a long, long time before I ever was like, I need help. I need your assistance. Um, and so really started working on like pushing the weights and doing weight training. And I love lifting weights now. In addition to my cardio on the weekends for bike riding. But I wanted to be strong. Um, and started pushing my protein and started gaining weight, which was again really, really scary. We worked a lot on mindset when I worked one-on-one with Nikki, and that was a huge thing was quit stepping on the scale. You still wear this. I wear the same size of clothes that I wore when I was 129 pounds and I was malnourished and I was, falling down the steps because I couldn't walk because I was, so weak. I'm in the same size, but I'm, 30 to 40 pounds heavier. How does that happen? I'm like, cause I'm strong, I have those muscles, I have that endurance level, that power, which is ultimately, I think what I was looking for, but I didn't think that I knew what I was looking for when I was like, I want to lose weight. I want to get skinny. Um, and really just pushing my emotional limits and my physical limits lately. That's kind of been my huge thing. Um, Again, get the skin removal surgery last fall. I had to be nutritionally sound. They are not going to do any huge, operation on anybody that's not mentally prepared, or physically prepared. So that was a big part of it too, was you have to be ready to not, you can't work out for 6 weeks. You can't do this for this long amount of time. Um, so like sleeping in a recliner was big for me. I'm like, there's no way I cannot not walk my 10,000 steps a day, or that I cannot not lift, or ride my bike. But I did, because now I'm way more capable and way more able to do that kind of stuff. Um, Recovery wise was not bad. And I think it's because I knew going into it that I needed nutrition. I needed my protein. I needed to, I kind of had that goal in the end too. I'm only 6 months out, and I've moved more than I have, in the last probably 4 years total. I just am like, yes, I can do this now, because I don't have all that, skin impeding me. And I feel more womanly now, because I actually have a shape, in the shape that I've always wanted. And I actually was going through all my jeans and asking my sister, and she's very like, very like rectangular shaped. And I was like, I do not have the body for these anymore. I'm like, so do you want these? Because I have to go up a size because my butt is so curvy now, which I love. That's like what I wanted. Um, but I think the huge like takeaway for my entire journey, even, up to like today, is mindset. And listening to my body, being okay with having a day off, or feeling like, okay, I'm tired today, or I need a break. And like respecting myself. And I always try to tell people, like, that's a huge thing, even when you're little. Like I tell my kids, like, if you don't feel like it, then don't do it, right? If you don't feel like going on a bike ride with mom and dad, then let's not go. There's no reason. There's no reason to do it. And push yourself and force yourself to do those things. Being in a healthy relationship with myself has also made my relationship with my boyfriend super, super strong. We have a challenging 3 boys in our house, one who's special needs and nonverbal. And so that is a really huge thing in our relationship, is to just make sure that we're working together, make sure that we're working on our own needs, so that we can also be there for each other and as a family. Um, and he's so super supportive of, he was into biking. So I was like, I guess I'll get into biking. I don't know. Cause I don't know. I don't like running, and he likes to run. So I'm like, I'll just pick one. And it's been huge for us, and like a huge bonding thing. And that's kind of our, instead of making like a weekly date night, we like every other weekend we have a bike ride. And it's, when we have our other kids are off at their other parents. And so we get to go together as, and do these bike rides. And, we literally make healthy movement just a part of our life, a part of our day to day. Like he knows it's important to me. He comes home on lunch break. I'm on my walking pad. I'm getting my 10,000 steps in, on the weekends. I'm like, you park over there, or I can drop you off. Like I'm going to park over here. I'm going to walk. Like he just knows. If it's rainy, like, oh, we have grocery shopping to do. I will go and I'll walk around the store, and I'm like, I'll catch up with you later. Like I got to get my steps in. And my kids know that too. Sometimes they'll get up in the mornings with me and exercise. And that to me, like, it just makes my heart full. Like some people like to go out and do hands-on things with their kids or whatever. Like it just makes me happy when they come and join me. They see me doing things. We just got new bikes for the boys, and they are just loving it. I mean, when they're like telling me we're gonna go ride our bikes around the block, and I'm like, please do. Like that just makes me so happy. That they want to do stuff like that, because I did not grow up like that. I was just very sedentary, very very heavy. And I just know that some of that, obviously I had some other stuff going on too in my childhood, but a lot of that had to do with how I physically and mentally, felt, and didn't do a whole lot about it. And my mom has been like probably my hugest supporter through it all, because she's watched me struggle. We used to, do like fitness videos together when I was in middle school, especially when I gained all that weight from those steroids. And she was, trying her best to encourage me. and even now, like I think it makes her teary eyed just to be like, look at where you've come from, look at how far they'll come to my bike races or rides and cheer me on at the end, because that's something they never thought that they'd get to do. um I was on the verge of 300 plus pounds and death pretty much, and just to switch my entire life around has been, yeah, I like can't even reflect on how changing and how much growth I've done even in the past, like 12 weeks working with Nikki has been just such a life change, like just crazy.
Okay, so I think something that I want to touch on first, that I didn't even know. So your first relationship there where you got your oldest son from, I didn't realize it was so emotionally abusive. Now, I know this isn't usually the way that we go with these types of podcasts, but I think that that's probably where a lot of your mental health stuff probably came from too, that we worked on so heavily during our 12 weeks together. So, like, how did you like, was there a moment when you realized that you were almost like being controlled and you just sort of dealt with it? Or did you have like a boundary with it? How did you like come to realization with it?
um so I think, like reflecting back, it was definitely after I had my son. um I remember, so I got home from the hospital and it was a Saturday. And brought all our stuff home from the hospital. House was a mess. I was exhausted, obviously, brand new baby, trying to breastfeed, trying to do all these things by myself. He didn't want my family there. I wanted my mom there. I wanted help, or I needed help. I was too scared to ask because I was like, well, I don't want to make him upset. You know, got home, baby fell asleep. I was like, sweet, I'm gonna rest. I ended up cleaning the house for 5 hours while he slept, and that was the longest he slept consecutively for weeks. And then ended up saying, I need to lay down, I need to rest, the baby's resting. He fell asleep. I can't even remember for how long. Saturday night, 10 o'clock, he's like, I'm gonna go out. We just got home with a brand new baby. Um, I think at that point I knew like this is gonna be tough. I'm gonna be by myself through all this,
Mhm.
or most of the way. um, and then it got to the point where when I went back to work, he would stay at home with the baby. I would work all day. I would come home. He's like, all right, we've been sleeping all day. Baby's yours. Okay. All right. I would try to handle it. I would have to ask permission to go out and about to, when he would work, I'd have to ask, like, is it okay if I take the baby outside? Like, can we go for a walk with the stroller? Can I sit on the front porch? Like I want the sunlight. Um, I think my friends and my family knew that it was controlling before that. I just don't ever remember them actually saying anything to me about it. Um, but I knew it was a problem. I was that woman that was scared. I can't leave because, and not that I didn't have support. Like I knew that if and when I had to leave, I'd have my family members. They were close by. I had friends. Um, but I was too scared to leave, too scared to say anything. It was definitely a domestic abuse situation. Um, and that is where a lot of my mental health stemmed from. Um, Being in control. I still, even now to this day in my current relationship, am like, we just went to the store, or hey, we just did this, or I feel myself like constantly needing to check in with somebody and letting them know like that I'm okay, or that I'm safe, or that I'm where I say I am. Because I always have this like self, or this doubt that somebody's going to think that I'm doing something I'm not supposed to be doing. And that's also where a lot of my control comes in. Because I left that relationship with being controlled, that I now feel like I have to control something. That's where my unhealthy relationship with food, with exercise, with, like I literally was, like, okay, if I can't control anything, and I wasn't even in a relationship at that point, but that stems all from that, was like, I can control that I drink, 6 cups of coffee a day and have 2 string cheese. And that's good because that's control. I own that. That's me. Um, yeah, it's really scary, really sad to like think about that I allowed something like that to happen. I mean, I obviously wouldn't be where I'm at today if all that didn't happen. Don't regret my child, don't necessarily even regret that relationship. I just never ever want anyone else to have to go through that. I mean, because it was an everyday, all day. Our whole actual physical assault happened because of an outfit that I had on. And so there again, then I didn't want to wear certain clothes or couldn't wear certain things out. I mean, it was to that point. Why are you doing your hair like that? Or why don't you wear this? Or, I mean, it was very physically like the emotional abuse was very like physically driven. Can I go to counseling? I have an appointment with therapy. Well, that's stupid. And why would you do that? You don't need that. And I'm like, okay, you're right, because I didn't want to upset him. Yeah. And that's why now, like my relationship, I'm like, are you sure? Like I can go out and ride my bike by myself and I'm not going to get in trouble, or I can, I'm like, the freedom I have isn't, people
Yeah.
would be like, that's regular, that's normal. And I'm like, wow, this is crazy. This is
Yeah.
insane. Be
Well, I
able
mean,
to
I
just,
remember when you and Todd went on your weekend and you had that little black dress or all the little black dresses on. I'm like, oh, you got all the little black dresses. And like, I know he was so proud of how good you felt. Like
yeah,
I didn't put all of that together until just now. So that's amazing.
yeah,
And the first time you wore that cropped hoodie out, I didn't realize that it had so much to do with this. I thought it was more
yeah,
or less like I'm rocking a cropped hoodie because I want
yeah,
to.
right.
Um, it's so
Or-
awesome. Like, congratulations on that.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you. Thank you.
okay, so I do have to ask the hard question though, because
Yeah.
unfortunately there are other people possibly listening to this that are going through that.
Yep.
How did you leave?
It took an actual physical assault.
Okay.
It was like a Tuesday or Wednesday morning, and it was actually 6 years ago last week.
Oh wow.
Um, Anniversary of it. Um, Took an actual assault. I came to work, got pushed, shoved, choked, all the hard physical things in front of my son. And I was like, I gotta go. I can't. Nope, there's no way. He can't be. And I offered to leave without any issues, no nothing. I said, just let me leave. Like it was my house, everything was in my name. I'm like, just let me leave. I was like held against the door, there was piggy banks, like knocked over glass stuff. Um, I didn't want to call the cops, but I ended up having to just because I needed my kid. I left, my son was inside and I got out eventually. Um, but people need to not be worried or be scared. If you see those signs, or if you, I mean, again, I went through this for 7 years before I was like, what's it going to take? And sadly, it was something physical. And that wasn't the first time that something physically had been, done to me in that relationship. It was just the time that I was like, I'm going, you're done. Um, Now we have a, I wouldn't say a perfect relationship, but we co-parent. We are able to conversate. We get along. I've learned the hard thing of um, forgiving what you can't forget. I'll never forget what happened. I can to this day, play, probably minute by minute exactly how everything went down. Um, but I mean, but I've forgiven everything because I can't hold that. I can't hold all that heavy stuff with me anymore. It was way too much.
Yeah.
And I moved in with my parents. I bought my first house and that's where the assault happened. And I'm like, I can't go back. I was like, I lived there for 3 years. I'm like, I sell my house, move in with my parents and I'll figure it out, and I did. Um, but yeah, I don't ever want anyone to have to physically go through that or have to get to that point of
Yeah.
it being, um, especially in front of my son, which, he was three. He may or may not remember. I don't know,
Yeah.
but
Hard to say.
that's where I have to think too, like that's potential trauma that he saw for 3 years that we would fight and argue and his dad would yell at me. Um, so I'm really cognizant of that too, because I did have childhood trauma. I don't want him to have that.
Yeah.
Um, so emotions are big in our family. We talk about them a lot.
Yeah. Well, and I know you and Todd are basically on the same page pretty much always. Like you might be in the
Yes.
different paragraphs sometimes, but you're almost
Yep.
always on the same page.
Yep.
So I massively respect that because I can't imagine going through what you went through. And at least you're setting the most amazing example now of how things are supposed to be. So that's incredible. I also have to bring this to full circle because I always knew you were type A, right? And which is why we had gut health issues, which is why we had controlling issues. I did
Hmm.
not realize that you were so type A because you finally were able to control something.
Yep.
It all
Yep.
makes so much more sense now. So
Yep.
something that Mackenzie and I worked on was a lot of like letting go on certain times, right? Because if I told Mackenzie, like, I need you to go jump on the trampoline, 3 feet off the trampoline 14 times every other hour, she would have gone and done it. And the reason I'm saying this is because I'm looking at the right now. But like, you were the perfect client because
And
literally whatever I told you,
yes, to the gram, to the yep,
yes. And then
yep,
all of a sudden I realized we need to learn how to not be perfect in order to help you grow past this. Because yeah, we could get you where you want to be. There's no question in my mind. We could, amazing. You look incredible anyway, but like you were making so much progress, but then, oh my God, what do I do? We're going to go on a weekend trip, or we're going to go out to dinner, or we're going to go help my aunt move. And what do I do? Literally had Mackenzie, did you delete the app for the weekend? Yeah. Like I
gone.
messaged her boyfriend because Todd's like the reason that we kind of got
Yes,
connected, right? I messaged
yes,
Todd and I was like, don't let her get on the app this weekend. Friday night until Sunday night, no app. And he messaged me back and said, "Hey," because I knew that you needed to learn how
yep,
to do it without it. And you did so well. Right. So I think maybe talk about that a little bit. Like, how did you learn to
yep,
be okay with not being perfect every single day?
yes. And I think looking back on like my progress, right? Like I've posted about this too. If you look at my past, about being really skinny and then or being really big and then being really skinny and then being now where I'm at. And like that nobody's journey is perfect. Like to some people, my journey might be like, I want that. Somebody might want exactly what I have because of what they see or what I perceive, but it's not like that. Um, and I think because I said, finally, I want to enjoy myself. I'm supposed to be resting. I'm supposed to be relaxing. I'm supposed to be on vacation. Like we have no kids and we're going to do a whole bunch of fun stuff. And Todd had all stuff planned for me. And he's kind of like like he brings me down. Like I'm always up here and Todd's always down here and he's so mellow. And I
Yes.
need to like get on his, I can't get on his level. That's too
No.
far down there.
He unwinds you.
I need to like lower it down.
Yes.
And so to be like, if I'm going to enjoy myself, if I'm going to be who I want to be, especially like we mentioned, like my kids, um, we go on a bike ride and I want to have an ice cream cone with my kids. Sorry, can't, mom's on a diet. Like, I don't want them to think of me that way. Like when they say, like, you should try this, this is so good. And I'm like, nope, absolutely can't have that. Like, what kind of a life is that? Right. Like my one bite of it or 4 bites of it isn't going to completely make me go back to what I was before. And so for me, it was an emotional, like happy thing. Like, I want to be happy. Am I going to be happy? Like trying to look up something on the menu and like write it down and like figure out my macros? No, I know that when I'm on vacation, like I tend to go towards like my more heavy carbs and fatty things. I bump with protein before I go out, or I try to eat, I know what I'm doing in my head. It literally was a control thing of getting everything perfect, lining everything up. And
Mhm.
then that would stress me out and cause me anxiety because, I would message you or say, like, okay, well, I didn't get this, or I was way off on this. And now I got to figure this out. Like, I'm very driven by like data.
Mhm.
I find myself telling Todd all the time, he's like, my sleep score on my watch. And I'm like, what? Looking at your watch. I'm like, you think your sleep score was a 10? Then you're going to go out and ride your bike and you're going to feel like a 10 out of 100. I'm like, don't do that. Right. I'm like, quit with the numbers because I've had to learn this and I've done this, like I still will track my stuff, especially during the week when I'm working and I'm like, okay, let me track when I go out on the weekends and I'm riding bike, I'm not going to put my 500 extra grams of carbs in there that I had to fuel my bike ride. That's going to stress me out because then I'm going to be like, oh, look at all the calories I just had. And look at all the, who cares?
Yeah.
Like I finally got to that, like, who cares mentality because I want to enjoy myself. I want to enjoy my family and I want my family to enjoy me. Like, I don't
Yes.
want them to be like, you're so uptight about everything. And you're so like, I want them to want to be around me. Like I
Yes.
want like mom's fun and mom does this with us and you know,
Oh
like
my God.
that's what right there,
What you just said, I want my family to enjoy me, right? It's
Yeah.
not how much you want to enjoy your family. You do, right? But you want
Yes.
them to remember enjoying you. I legit remember when I was trying to learn how to come off of not only like 9 rounds of 75 hard, but then coming off of carb cycling, like very, very strict carb cycling. Like I was ashamed of myself for eating half of a hamburger, not even cheeseburger, half of a hamburger at a picnic. And
Yeah.
Rob looked at me and he's like, we gotta get past this.
Hmm.
And I'm like, I should have brought my stuff with me. And he's like, no. Like, and it took years to heal from that. So, oh my God, yes, you're so right. I've never thought of it like that before. Like, it's not so
Yeah.
much we have to go and like have like a giant triple scoop ice cream cone
Right.
every weekend, right?
Yep.
But we can say no sometimes.
Yeah.
We don't have to say no all the time, nor do we have to track the triple scoop of ice cream if that's what you
Right.
decide you want every once in a while. It's okay.
Yes. And my
Oh,
kids that as like they know, like they know that mom and dad eat healthy. They know like, oh, look, like the other day I was making something and one of them said, why do you always have egg whites? I'm like, they just have so much protein in them. And then mom puts other stuff on them. And I'm like, I just like that, and they know that we eat healthy. They know that health is important to us, but they also know that we can have fun, that we can go out to eat at a restaurant. And I'm not sitting there like, nope, I can't eat this,
yeah. You're not going
because
straight to the salad section every
yeah,
time.
exactly.
Sometimes we
Yeah,
want a salad, but not every time.
exactly. And, I want to enjoy myself too. Like
Mhm.
I want to be happy and I don't want to be uptight and worried about every tiny little thing all the time. Like
Yeah.
my anxiety used to be, crazy. I mean, before jumping on a call, I'd be like, oh, my anxiety because I only lost half a pound this week. And I would be so worked up about things. Why?
I
You
know.
know,
I know.
there's really no reason. And then my kids feed off of that energy, and then Todd feeds off that energy. And no, nope.
Then everybody's
I,
just busted.
yeah, no more, no more.
Oh
Yeah,
God, it's such a
yeah.
beautiful, freeing feeling. I can feel like from the first time we talked, because we did Resilient starting what, in January?
Yep.
Yeah. So like from like the first time we talked at the beginning of January until the end, you were a different person
Hmm.
because we always talked via FaceTime or Zoom.
Yep.
And the first time we jumped on, you were just like very listed, right?
Very, very, yes.
Rigid. And
Yep.
what and you were perfect, right? We took that first call and put all these data points in place and you followed it to a T. And
Yep.
then you started sending me the messages of, oh my God, the scale did this, or oh my God, I was 5 grams short of that. And I'm like, hold the phone. We are not going to go down
Yep.
this. And
Yep.
my God, it's so good. It's so good. Okay, so that was
And
all.
I chasing something unrealistic. Like I've heard you say that before. Like I was chasing that unrealistic. I've thought like in my head before, like I want to go back to that 129 pounds. I want to be ripped like that again. Like I was so unhealthy. Like
Mhm.
that's so unrealistic. Like no, like and getting out of that mindset of like being skinny and being, like I'm strong. I love being strong.
Mhm.
Like I see myself on these bike rides and they have professionals out there like taking your picture and I'm like, look at me. I'm with this group of men and I'm keeping up and like that to me is important.
Okay.
And like that like strong confidence. Like I don't
Yes.
need to change a number on a scale or a physical look or are there days where I feel really good about myself? Heck yeah. And I'm looking at myself in the mirror and I'm like, that is me. And there's other days where, okay, gross, you. Nope, not gonna, we all do it.
Yes,
We're
I love those days. Welcome
right.
to studio phase. We're like,
Yeah,
oh,
I'm like, we're all women. It happens, but I just have to embrace that, like, that happy, that, like, free, you know, I'm
yes,
full structure. I
yes,
still, I
yes.
structure.
Okay, so I think a couple of the things that we did with you that were most, I think, life-changing for you was, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but the circadian type eating schedules, which controlled but not super rigid because we were flexible with it, but that helped your gut health immensely,
Mm,
your cravings. And then the other thing, oh shoot. Well, there was a couple of things that was the really, really big one because you were so amazed that the cravings were gone. Um,
mhm.
I guess give me your opinion on that while I'm trying to think of what the other one was that I was thinking of.
Yeah, it was the, like, waking up with, um with water right away because I would fast work. I would do my workouts fasted, and then jump right into coffee, protein coffee, which, I was adding protein Okay. But, or an energy drink or something like that. So just waking up with the, water, and then a small snack before I would work out. Like
Yeah.
in that period, because I'm like, oh my gosh, that's already, here we go with numbers. That's already 140 calories that I've consumed. And now I don't have, I would get nervous that I would run out of calories at the end of the day. So I would like put them all at the end.
Mhm.
I'd like starve all day and then I'd put them all at the end. To the point where I remember telling Todd, I'm like, I have to eat all this by 5:30 tonight. I'm like, and there's no way. And he's like, what do you eat all day? And I'm like, well, I had my one protein shake that 20 grams protein and then nothing. And then, so there was that. But knowing that I had a cutoff time, I was always the nighttime eater. Like I would literally get into bed like with a big bowl of yogurt, which, not super unhealthy, right? But I would go to bed eating something and then fall asleep right away.
Mhm.
Um, Awful sleep scores, terrible, if you wear like a smartwatch, just awful recovery. Like I always felt tired, never wanted to get up. Um, alarm would go off. I was like the chronic snoozer. But then we kind of talked about like instead of intermittent fasting, why don't you only eat? Yes, like we were built to eat during daytime hours.
Mhm.
You're primal when we were, cavemen, like they got up and they started eating and when it was dark, they went to bed. Like that's what you do. You don't eat anymore. Um, and so like overnight fasting. And so trying to do like what were you doing? 12 hours overnight.
Yeah.
So I would stop eating at, like 5:30 or 6 o'clock, and I would get up at 5:30 or 6 o'clock, and I would have my 8 ounces of water while I was still in bed, mind you, because I was like, okay, I'm just waking up, stretching. I would have my water. I would come downstairs, eat a Kodiak granola bar, something like that, and then do my workout. Um, and the first few days, that was so hard. It was so hard for me to be like, I'm hungry. I want something at 8 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock at night. And be like, I'm just going to try this. I'm going to give this a try. Like, I think she knows what she's talking about. And I would think it was 2 or 3 days. I was like, wow, okay. At 5:30, I'm done eating. I feel good. If I felt like I was hungry, I would have water or something like that. But I never really had that like feeling of hunger or cravings of needing something, like salty or sweet at bedtime. And I wasn't ever making awful choices at my bedtime, like meals or snacks, but it was literally a whole meal filling up my stomach and then I'd go to bed.
Yes.
Um, and then wonder why I have acid reflux and why I sleep crappy. And, now I'm like, 5 o'clock comes around, I'm like, woo, I'm ready to go. Like, let's get up. Let's our workout's done. And I'm like opening all the curtains in the house. And I'm like, it's sunlight out. Everyone has to wake up. And everyone's like,
You're like
okay.
Snow White.
Yes. I'm like, come on.
Oh, that okay. So that was the other thing too. Okay, that was what I was thinking when we went over how to like data, right? But not so
Yep.
much data, but like understanding your cycle and how it affected your performance because you were always like you came to me already working out. You came to me already loving like high intensity, your bike rides, like you ride 100 miles at a time, right? Is that your
Yep.
normal race time? Okay, so like intense endurance, that like I
Yep.
don't I live, whatever. Have fun bicycling. Which by the way, you still need to swing by my house, right? That's in July. It's
Yes. Yes.
gonna be
Yep.
awesome. Okay, so but not to mention that we were talking about your cycles and how the different phases of your cycle affects how your performance is going to be and
Mm.
then you started to kind of match your willingness to take a rest day or when to schedule longer endurance rides with that and I want you to talk about that because I think that was a
Yes.
big change for you too.
Oh, huge. Thinking, I'm almost 34. When you're 34, you don't think of like perimenopause or menopause things. And I look at like my mom and she's like, I'm having these hot flashes or I'm having these symptoms. And I'm like, I don't want to be like that. Like those symptoms and stuff are going to happen regardless, but I want to get a better handle. And, I'm always like, Nikki was always like, here, listen to this or read this book. So I always have this like thirst for knowledge anyway. And that's the educator in me, that's the nurse in me. But having that insight of, okay, I'm coming into my menstrual phase. I'm one that when I get my period, I'm go. Like I am ready to go. Like I feel good. A lot of, if you have a really heavy period, sometimes people are just, they bonk out. They don't feel good. They're kind of ramping back up. But like I had a race no, it was a while ago, about a month ago, and I had my period and I felt so good. I'm like, let's go, let's go. I'm ready to bike. Now 2 weeks from now, I have a big race and I know that it's a long race. I am right at that luteal phase and I'm like, great. So I'm trying to research, what can I do? How can I better fuel myself? Taking breaks during the week, resting, again, like listening to my body and being like, you don't have to exercise hardcore 45 to 50 minutes every single day. You don't have to do that. It's a matter of, if I feel, I remember one morning waking up and being like, I don't feel like exercising and I'm not going to.
Mhm.
And I laid in my bed, didn't get on my phone, didn't do anything like that. I just laid there and rested for an extra half hour because I was like, I can do this. No one's monitoring me. Nobody's like, I'm not out to get on a stage in 2 weeks. I'm not, like, who cares?
Mhm.
Really? I'm like, who cares? So being able to focus on my phases, knowing when it's better for me to ramp up my carbs a little bit and utilize fats a little bit better. And women's health, I think it's becoming more of a norm and more studied too, because women are talking now. Women are like speaking up. Like, it's not fair that all these studies about endurance cycling or lifting weights is all geared toward men all
Mhm.
the time. Like, and we're sick of it. We want a women's perspective. We want women to be studied. We want, like, because we are different.
Mhm.
We are not tiny little men. And that's in that book called Roar. Like, we are not little tiny men, miniature versions of them that can do all these things, because we're not.
Mhm.
Like, we have a cycle. And because I'm more in tune with my cycle, Todd's more in tune with my cycle. He knows, like, he'll be like, you're, coming downhill, like it's your more time to rest. Like, he'll set me up on the bike trainer, like, just do a zone 2. Cycle a little bit, enough where you could read your book. You don't have to hang on, just easy, steady. Like, he knows. And he's trying to help me like map and get my bike rides like all synced up too. And he's like, make this your A race, make this one that you just go hard in, because you can do it, because you're at, like your ovulation phase. Like, he knows. And having somebody that's willing to learn about that stuff is awesome too. Because again, in my past relationship with the assault and everything, that was always something too, was, ew, that's disgusting, that's gross, that's, I'm like, okay, well, I cannot help it.
Yeah.
Like, I am a woman, and
Like,
you're gonna
sorry, I'm female and you chose to like females. So
exactly. And like that, so that's been a huge thing too, as far as being okay with lowering my amount of weight that I'm pushing. Or, like today I was like, 15s feel heavy. Like, it feels heavy. I'm just gonna go down to a 12. And that
yeah.
felt good. That felt, it's not, I've learned to not focus on those numbers. Data and numbers are great and they can show us trends over time, but focusing so like minutely into them, it can be damaging. And it has damaged me,
Oh yeah.
in the past. And so I'm like, nope, no more. No more. And
Absolutely.
I dialed in on my physical and emotional and hormonal health now before it's too late. Before I get into my 40s, 5s, and 50s, and I'm like, crap, what do I do?
Mhm.
Because I want to continue to cycle. I want to continue to be on my bike and do, lifting and things like that. Like, I don't want to stop moving because of my age or how I feel, because of hormone shifts or changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I just think it's amazing. And obviously, as you know, the stronger that you are now going into perimenopausal transition later, the better, because you're set up for to handle it more. Like, you're
Yes.
doing all the things right now to be able to handle things so much better later. Um, Obviously I'll be here for when we both get there and we're like, God, it's hot all the time, and we
Right.
can go through that together. Um, but it's
Yes.
fine. Um, but no, I think that those 2 things were some of the biggest things that we could do for you that you really, really grew from. Especially like on the physical aspect of things and like being okay with not pushing so hard all the time. And then having Todd's support and me being able to like message him on the back end and be like, "What I told her. Now
Sure.
you make sure she turns it off." And you did. And I remember when you got home, you're like, "I lived." Yeah. And it was awesome. And so I think that that was like a huge, huge piece for you.
Yeah.
Um, your journey's been incredible. I guess I do want you to touch on the actual skin removal portion of your journey, prep, recovery, unexpected things. And then we can kind of just like
Yeah.
probably end after that. But I know that a lot of people were wanting to hear about that. So I'll let you kind of dive into that whole process.
So that was a huge um thing that I knew I wanted to do eventually, just because I had lost so much weight. I actually got hooked up with a surgeon that I saw on social media. Like, people do this all the time. I researched her, looked her up. I was like confident. I felt really good. I actually talked to her on the phone, had a virtual consult with her. She was in Ohio. So I had this all planned out. I actually kind of had it scheduled so it was at the end of our bike season so that I wasn't like running into, I wanted to finish my bike season. There was rides I wanted to do. Met up, talked to this physician who ended up losing her medical license like right before I was scheduled.
Oh,
So that drama too. And I was like, what do I do? Now I don't know where to go. Now I don't, reached out to a surgeon in Minnesota, did some research again. I was like, how do you pick? How do you choose? There was a free consultation, went to the consultation, like fell in love with him and his staff. And was like, okay, I'm gonna pursue this. That was back in, so it was the same year that I had the surgery, but it was like in April was my first consultation. And so they make you, they make you do this whole consultation. They don't tell you anything about like losing weight or maintaining weight, so I maintained weight, still did my bike rides, but I purposely scheduled this for out, November so that I was done with bike rides and stuff. And I decided that, so while we were there, did the consultation, I literally was flat as a board, pancake, no boobs, no nothing. I'm like, something's gotta give. Because I had so much skin this way, he decided to do a fleur-de-lis tummy tuck. Not sure if you've ever heard of that.
no.
But what is, so they cut from your sternum down to your, instead of like the traditional tummy tuck is on your lower abdomen, like your bikini line, just go straight across it, grab the skin, pull it down. They,
Okay.
reattach it. But because I had so much skin around my backside too, he's like, we're going to do like a fleur-de-lis. Like it's intense. It's a lot of skin. It's a big scar. I'm like, I want to be able to bike. I don't want to lean over and have all this skin hanging down or have it tucked in the pants and chafing and whatever else. So they cut me from my sternum. I mean, so literally like right on my breastbone, all the way to my pubic bone, up and down.
Mhm.
And then they went across. So I had all that. They pulled it this way, they pulled it, up and down and all the ways. And then because I had so much on my lower back, like in my upper butt area, he actually went all the way around my backside.
Oh,
So I have, yeah, so I have a scar from like the top of my butt crack all the way around to my, lower abdomen incision, and then from my pelvis all the way up to my chest. So it was huge. They did it all at once. It wasn't like a two-part deal.
mhm.
And then I also had breast augmentation. They did a lift. So I was cut, completely around my nipple and all the way down my breast and then all the way across. I mean, so I was just like sliced and diced, you know.
Everywhere.
Uh, Literally they were cautious because I was under anesthesia for like 8 hours. They're like, that's a long time, like we don't really like to do that. Recovery, I just remember being they were so good with pain management, which was awesome. Like, if you're going to do this, find a surgeon that is all about pain management. I only ended up taking like 2 of my medications when I got home, like 2 of the pills, because they do Exparel. So it's actually an injection inside like your abdomen muscles. Cause I did have some, my
Guys,
actual, yeah, like I had a diastasis. They said it wasn't awful. It was probably like 3 inches wide. I mean, so that's enough, that they repaired it. So they sewed that all back together, had like the internal, like corset. But they do Exparel. So it's like an internal, pain management, like injection. So I did that all around my abs. I think they do it around the breast area too, just for overall pain management. Um, I remember being so paranoid because all of our kids were going to be home. I got it done on a Thursday and all our kids were going to be home. And I'm like, great, all the kids are going to be here. How am I going to handle all this? My mom took me up, did the surgery. She brought me back home. I walked into the house with a walker. Like, I was all hunched over, because you're like all tight, and I was hunched over. And our bedroom is up on the second floor of our house. And I was like, all right, let's do this. Went up the steps. Like, it was awesome. Like, I literally was like, okay, I feel good. Obviously I still had all the pain meds and all the anesthesia probably still in me. I had 2 drains, so a drain on each hip. And one of them drained quite a bit, and then the other one hardly at all. Like, they actually had me pull the other one by myself at home because it was hardly draining.
interesting.
Um, yeah, yeah. So I was just like, okay, They just cut
Oh
the suture. Yeah. I was like, good thing I'm a nurse, right? Because
my God, I'd be puking.
care. Yeah. Um, I couldn't see anything. Like I was just, like they didn't have me like it was just tape, just simple tape. It wasn't like big, huge gauze bandages or anything. Um, I got up a couple times. I almost passed out. I think just from dehydration, loss of, the anesthesia. Like I stood up and just blacked out. I didn't fall or anything, but Todd made a point to take off that first week to be with me just in case I needed help or anything. Kept telling me not to do anything, and I wasn't really listening, but wasn't like I'm not gonna overdo it. My recovery was just so amazing. I think it's just because my surgeon was so great. I didn't have any issues like with anything reopening. Because it's all just there's internal sutures, but there's no external sutures. It was just glued. I'm like,
Oh,
and it's huge, huge incision, just glued. Um, Slowly, like the tape falls off, and they took some of it off. So I went like once a week for the first 2 weeks, and then I went back after a month. But it was so easy. They were like, you can walk after, like 2 weeks, you can start walking. And so I would walk. I didn't make a point to like, I'm gonna get up and go walk around the block. Like I did as much as I felt like I could do. Um, During that time, like protein again was like huge for me. I'm like drinking collagen shots and like shakes, and I'm like, I gotta do as much as I can, nutrition wise, because I knew that was huge for healing. And I think that's probably what helped with like how well I did heal. I mean, I'm only 6 months out and I'm doing all these crazy things. And um yeah, but emotionally, people don't talk about how hard surgery is emotionally. And like we've worked on emotions so much that I got really overwhelmed, really depressed right away, like the first couple days, because I couldn't do anything and I had to ask people for help. And I did not like that at all. Not having that control of, I was upstairs and I don't know what my basement looks like or my downstairs looks like. Is it trashed? Are the kids doing what they should be doing? Are the dishes done? So that was another huge thing, was minding myself and reminding myself that it would be okay, that the house isn't going to burn down because there's 4 dishes in the sink. Like I had to let go of that control, but I did feel really overwhelmed. And almost depressed because I couldn't do anything. And I hate relying on people. And Todd will tell you all day, every day that he's like, no, ask me for help. He's constantly like, what can I do to help? What can I do to help? And I'm like, nothing. I will always tell him nothing. There's so many things in my mind that I need help with. And I'm like, nothing. So that was a huge like growth thing for me too, to be like, can you please do this? Can you do this for me? It would be helpful if like not being bossy, but I'm like, I need, so that was huge too, and I think that helped me emotionally, to get through some of those things too, to be like, yes, I can ask for help. I can rely on people and it's okay, and, yeah, I mean, like, even like I said, physically wise, we're women. There's days where I look at myself and I'm like, oh yeah, like I can wear that little black dress and I feel so good. And there's other days where I'm like, there are no leggings in this house that could suck my tummy in enough to make me feel good today, you know?
been there.
And yeah, and it happens. And I would never ever regret my journey. Like from all the crap that happened to me when I was little, from being overweight to, from literally every piece, like has made me.
Mhm.
And I would never change it. And
Oh,
again, like people to be like inspired, like Nikki's inspired me. Like she didn't know, like I was secretly watching her, for like years. Like, and I'm like, okay, like I want people to feel that way about me. And I'm sure that people do. I've had people message me too, like, yeah, I've heard you say this, or you tell me about this. Um, I'm so willing to share my story. Whereas before I was, too controlled to even think about doing something like that.
yeah.
Um, but if I can, and I can motivate people or even just give a little bit of insight, like that to me is gold. Like we need more people that are willing to share and willing to, build people up versus breaking them down.
Oh my God, yes, in all of the ways, in all of the
Mhm.
ways.
Yeah.
No, I so appreciate all of it. All the details, all of the insight, all of the suggestions, just the emotional growth, all the things that you
Yeah.
share. Amazing. Um, After everything we've talked about today, if you could leave, and we've talked about so many different topics, I'm gonna let you decide, but your best piece of advice for anyone struggling with anything you struggled with. give it?
I think it all goes back to listening to yourself, listening to your body, being okay with taking those rest breaks, taking those that's just been huge for me, is being okay with not being perfect. Um, you know, quit tracking everything, quit looking at everything. Just being free. It's so freeing to not have to worry about little things like that. Enjoy the time that you have with your family, because we don't know when our time's done, right? We don't know. And just, yeah, love yourself, respect your body, listen to it. Because when you do that, other people are going to do that towards you and for you. And your kids are watching you constantly, your significant others. Like, that's my probably my biggest takeaway from everything that I've learned from the last 34 years that I've been alive, is just to be respectful, listen to myself, love myself. It's huge. It's hard, but it does make a huge difference.
Oh my God, yes. Listen to it. Your body's giving you all of the directions and signs that you
Yes,
need in order to feel your best. You just have to listen.
exactly.
Oh, I
Yep.
love it. Thank you, lady, for being a part of
Yeah.
this. Awesome.
Always.
Well, I appreciate you. Have an amazing day. And as always, let me know if you need anything.
I sure will. Thank you, Nikki.
Bye.
Bye.